Frank Legato. I'm editor of Global Gaming Business Magazine. Today's panel, titled Skill versus Chance, it's addressing a topic that's really one of the hot topics in relation to declining slot revenues and the next generation of casino customers, and whether our games are relevant to them and how skill will play a factor in actually boosting slot revenues. Our panelists, we have Eric Meyerhofer, directly to my right, who is a CEO of Gamblit Gaming, which has been one of the leaders in coming up with alternative games that are skill-based, that will appeal more to a new audience. And we have two regulatory officials. We have Chad Cornett in the middle there. He is Director of Regulatory Compliance for Gaming Laboratories International. And finally, we have David Rebuck, who is Director of the New Jersey Division of Gaming Enforcement. But before we get to it, I would just like a show of hands. How many operators in the audience? And how many on the regulatory side? Because this is an issue that's relevant to both. Okay? Well, let's start with a little background on the subject. First of all, can each of you give your opinion on what has brought the slot sector to the point of needing to kind of look at reinventing the slot machine? I'll start with Eric.
Thank you. So from my view, what we're really looking at is a bifurcated market. So I think if you go back a number of years, it was, you'd have this progression of players. The age demographic, as always, will go from 21 to 55, 60, whatnot. And people would just adopt the same kinds of products. And now I think we are facing a bifurcated market, which is, I think of it as the traditional or classic casino market, which is very well served to this day. Most of the floor that, when you go to the exhibits are going to be traditional casino products. Then there's the new product generation, and really what I believe has driven that is something that every one of you is holding, which is your phone, right? So the smart devices have changed people's thinking on what is entertainment, what's engagement. In fact, it changes any industry it touches, right? If you can think of it as the internet and then moving on into phones. So effectively what it's done is it's actually put, I believe, a disruption into the market, so that when you normally have people that are in their 20s coming to casinos, instead of them finding a mystique to classic casino, traditional casino product and adopting that and learning to play it and becoming then patrons of the future, they're just not interested to even start with it. A slot machine is really, if you think of it as an anticipation of a wager outcome, and so that just isn't enough interactivity or engagement for somebody who is now trained fully on all these enticing type of mobile games on their phone. So when you look at reinventing itself, I think this market should really be properly served in two fashions. One is you continue to follow your traditional casino product because you don't want to turn that market off, but trying to creep that product closer to a millennial style product could actually turn off your core market, which is the games are getting very confusing with multiple pay lines and bonus rounds, and they can actually be overwhelming. And sometimes players don't even really understand all the time why they're even winning. And I think that's the reason that's happening is they're trying to make one product to serve both, right? I think that's a mistake. So with Gamblit anyway, that's how we view it. We're interested in that new type of product. It's more like a game or a video game than it is a classic casino product to serve that other part of the market.
Chad?
Excellent. I believe the slot sector is not necessarily being reinvented, but it's more so of a natural kind of progression in the industry, but albeit a very important one. If you look at over the past 2 decades, the slot machine has really sort of changed incrementally really every year. The one-armed bandits of the 80s are kind of, the machines on the floor now are so much different. You started with coin acceptors and then moved towards over to tokenization, over to cashless, to player account wagering, and then you started with reels, and now that's turning into interactive touchscreens and bonus rounds and multi-sites, multiplayer games. You're seeing those things happen static machines. Now we're seeing mobile, and we're seeing internet wagering, and we're seeing integrations with social networks. So, I think this is more of a natural kind of advancement for the industry, and one that's definitely as a result of this evolving customer base. And I believe that skill is an important one. I think we're going to see a lot of new and fresh content really hit the machines now. And I'd imagine that over the next 2 to 3 years, you'll start to see more and more of the floor kind of being encompassed by skill, because as more and more people are getting engaged with their technology, they're wanting more from their slot machine. They want to interact. And the traditional games where you're essentially betting a wager and hoping for the best, where you don't really have interaction. I think there's still a market for it, but there's definitely new demographics that are wanting more. They're wanting more engagement with their machine. So I think this is more of kind of a supplement to the industry, and I think it's a natural progression, not necessarily a reinvention, but it's building upon all the technology advancements that have really occurred over the past 2 decades.
David, New Jersey, you've been out front on calling for new types of slot machines. What's your take on the issue on why we need more styles?
Well, those familiar with Atlantic City and New Jersey recognize that desperation sometimes breeds innovation. We recognized through a lot of commentary, certainly from Frank's articles amongst others, back in 2014, a year ago, that this was an area, the skill-based gaming was an area that the regulated jurisdictions needed to start tackling to give some assurance to the game manufacturers because of the cost of research and development and new product that would have to be borne by them as they began to identify these opportunities for the industry. So we urged them to be innovative on October of 14. What was fascinating to me was that we obviously recognized social gaming features were being quite successful, very financially successful, in fact. You certainly had the early explosion of the ultimate skill-based gaming, fantasy sports, a big topic here today and elsewhere, of the interaction and the immense popularity, according to the federal government, skill-based. We'll accept that for the time being when we challenge them in another matter that we're somewhat dealing with in sports wagering litigation. But we needed to get out front in this, and what was interesting to us in New Jersey was that we had many, many inquiries, Gamblit and other companies really at the forefront and asking, what ifs, how about this, and looking for certainty and guidance. And I remember on phone calls with the AGEM that as a regulator, they're telling us, you need to develop stronger regulations to tell us how to do this. It's like, I can't believe this. I started as director of gaming enforcement, they wanted less regulation, and now they want more. So I was a little disappointed in the industry, but I was very pleased then when Nevada, being the ultimate preeminent jurisdiction in the United States, took this on and developed regulations and has a framework that manufacturers can now follow. And that's beneficial because all those research and development costs I was talking about at a little state like New Jersey, it's a higher risk than when you have a massive opportunity with what's gaming in Nevada. So I think other state jurisdictions will soon join. The regulations have been developed certainly by Nevada, very good regulations. We have our regulations now because AGEM has forced me to write regulations. I've done that. Very similar, in many ways identical in Nevada. We have some differences of opinion, but we can work those out as regulators. I'd like to be in a position where we get one set, or we're a very common best practice set. Unfortunately, we don't have that yet, but I think the manufacturers recognize it. The differences are easily well brought.